On the night of 20th August 2007, what was going to be a short trip to buy a hair clip quickly turned to something more sinister. Such fate befell the family of an 8-year-old Noreen Jocelyn Jasmine when she never returned. Noreen Jocelyn was the second child out of three siblings, an 8-year-old who was reported missing after she had gone to a wet market near her house in Section 1 Wang Samaju, Kuala Lumpur by herself to buy a hair clip on the night of 20th August 2007. Her parents went out to the market to search for their daughter after realizing that she was gone for far too long. After searching high and low for their daughter, the parents then headed to the nearest police station where they would eventually file for a missing persons report. Thus began the nationwide search for the missing child, Noreen Jaslyn Jazimin. The first clue from witnesses was that she was abducted by a man driving a white van. Now this sparks the search for Noreen throughout the whole country, considering there were a supposed footage of she being forced into the white van. The search for the footage was to no avail. Not long after, there was multiple alleged sightings of her throughout the next 28 days, all of which led to nowhere and resulted in waste of efforts. Hope remained for her parents until 28 days after her disappearance. This is when their worst nightmare finally came to be. On the morning of 17th September, her body was found by Chen Yangfeng, the supervisor of a book distributing company that was located around 16 kilometers from where Noreen went missing. She found a black and blue sports bag outside of their company's premise. At first, she assumed the bag belonged to her general manager and left it for him to find. About 30 minutes later, the general manager, Jack, arrived at work. Upon finding the bag, he insisted that it was not his. The true horror was unleashed when Jack opened the bag to find what was truly a disturbing sight. A pair of human legs, a body of a young child, full of bruises on her body. The police rushed to the spot as soon as they were called. After some inspection, the police were able to identify that the body belongs to a young girl, likely aged between 6 to 9 years old. A post-mortem revealed that the girl had some bruises covering her neck area, which was an indication that she might have been strangled. Reports also showed signs of bruises on her hands, and worst of all, the coroner also found a cucumber and an eggplant inside the victim's genital. It was later determined that bacterial infection had contributed to the cause of her death. Noreen's parents, who heard the news of the girl's missing body being found, rushed to Hospital Kuala Lumpur to identify her. Upon seeing the body, they denied that it was their daughter. The victim's face and body was so severely deformed that they could not recognize her. It was also speculated that the child might have been a foreigner, due to the absence of mandatory injection mark given to all local children in Malaysia at the time, which was to prevent tuberculosis. Unfortunately, DNA test result confirmed that the girl was indeed the child of Jazimin and Norazian. Noreen's violent torture and death sparked an uproar that swept throughout the entire nation. An immediate full-scale manhunt to find who was responsible for the murder was initiated. Eventually, on the 20th September, 5 people were arrested, 4 men and 1 woman, which has supposed connection with Noreen's case. All five suspects were aged between 27 and 35 years old. However, all of them were released due to lack of evidence to tie them to the crime. On the 11th October of 2007, the police released an enhanced CCTV footage of a man carrying a deodorant gym bag which contained the remains of Noreen Jocelyn. The footage also showed a woman in red dress and three other men lurking around the same location where the bag was dropped off. Many efforts were taken to make sure they can find the identity of people in the video. The Royal Malaysian Police Department even went to such length to get the FBI's favor to enhance the footage. Despite all the efforts, the identity of the motorcyclist or the license plate of the motorcycle that was used to transport the bag which contained the victim's body was never really discovered. Regarding the suspects, the Royal Malaysian Police Department released two photo feeds of people who might be able to shed some light regarding what happened to the little girl. The connection between the people in the photo feeds and the case, however, were never disclosed. Regardless, the police stated that anybody who remembered seeing either of those two carrying the bag around the area should call the police. This too was, however, led to no avail. All of this leading the case to be abandoned by the authority. As of 2018, Noreen's father has urged the police officials to reopen his daughter's case in hopes of finding something new with the use of modern technology. His plea, however, was never granted, and the case to this day still remains unsolved. It has now been 14 years since the loss of Noreen Jocelyn, yet the tragic details of her disappearance, torture, and death serve as a grisly reminder for parents and guardians to always supervise their children regarding their whereabouts. Regardless, all that can be done is hope and pray that one day the family will be able to find justice for their missing daughter. And as for Noreen Jocelyn, may her young soul rest in peace.